Well, hey everybody. So today's a writing day, and I've been working on my book all day and been running through some processes with people on creating personal narrative and doing some of the other things that will allow us to create the kind of influence that we want over our clients and our prospects and our followers and all that good stuff. And I took a little break to eat, and I was also reading through some of the questions for this month for my private group, my private Facebook group. And one of the questions was, well, how do you know when you're doing it right? How do you know when you're getting the influence piece of your business correct? And it's something that I cover some, but it's not something that it's kind of something that we just say, hey, well, here's what you're doing when you're doing it right. And so I thought I would take a little bit of time and explain some of the ways that you'll know if you're doing it right. Now, when you ask a lot of people, what they'll tell you is, well, are they emailing you, or are they opening your emails, or are they subscribing to your podcast, or are they buying your products? And though that's how you know you have influence. And that's just simply not true, because lots of people will buy your stuff when you don't have any real influence over them. They'll just, for whatever reason, will want to have the information that you claim to have. But you being able to persuade them and motivate them and get them to take action in a sales process is different than having influence over them. And so when we talk about having influence, what are some of the ways that we know that we're having influence? Well, number one, if you've constructed your business correctly and you've constructed your narrative correctly, you should have a whole lot of stories that you are sharing with your prospects and clients consistently that explain who you are, what you're about, why you believe what you believe, why you do things the way that you do them. And those, if you've got real influence over the people that you're trying to influence, they're repeating those stories back to you. So one of the most famous ones that I have is the winner's win story. And I won't relay it to you here because it'll take too long and it's not pertinent. But the point is, I get a lot of people who tell me the winner's win story, and they repeat it back to me as though it's their own. And so they have taken on that medal, they've taken on that story as their own. And that is an example of how you are displaying your influence or seeing your influence come back over them. Another one is, do they send you presents? Do they send you gifts? It's funny, when the trading business that I own at Trade Empowered, every Christmas we would get presents from our customers. And it was always shocking to me, and I guess it shouldn't be, knowing how powerful a tool influence can be, but it was always shocking to me that people would spend thousands of dollars on our courses and would still feel like they got so much value that they needed to send us a present at Christmas to thank us for the ability to buy our products, essentially. And it always made me feel good knowing that we were giving so much value that even though there was a $3,000, $4,000 price tag on the products that we sold, that people still were excited enough about the opportunity that they were sending us thank you cards and they were sending us chocolates. And I mean, I got this really great bull and bear statue that sat on my desk for years from a client of mine who just wanted me to have something. And so it's that kind of stuff that really lets you know whether or not you're having an impact and whether or not you're truly having the type of influence over your clients and customers that you should. So do they tell your stories back to you? Do they send you gifts in the mail? Do they take action when you ask them to? So I had a friend of mine, one of the first things I did when I started my podcast was at the end of every episode, I would say, hey, if you like this show, I need you to do 3 things. Number 1, subscribe and listen every day. And number 2, share the show with somebody. And then number 3, if you really like this show, head on over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review, 5 stars if you think the show is worth it. And because of the influence that we were able to create in that show, had hundreds of people who would leave us ratings and reviews. And I had a friend of mine who sent me an email and he said, hey man, how are you doing this? Because I've been doing the show as long as you have, and I've only got 12 ratings. And I said, well, are you asking them to go and rate and review the show? And he said, well, no. I said, well, start and see what happens. Send an email to your following, or at the end of your show, tell them to go leave a rating. And lo and behold, when he did that, he got double the number of ratings and reviews that he had before. So the point is, when you have influence over somebody, you can give them direction. You can tell them, hey, I want you to go do this. This is what you need to do now, and they will go and do it. So, do they respond when you ask them to? Do they send you presents? Do they gifts? Do they repeat the stories back to you? This is all evidence that you have control and influence over your audience. And guys, this is absolutely critical when you're trying to build celebrity and authority. You need that type of influence, and it only comes by first creating that fascination. And if you haven't seen the video that I did on fascination, I would highly suggest you go back through and do that, because it would be really good for you. But those are some of the ways that you can tell whether or not you're being effective in your influences. Those 3 things. There are more, by the way, but this video is getting a little long, and I got to get back to writing. So for now, take that, run with it, send me your responses, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys soon.